Hello, viewers and listeners. And Jayanth, welcome back to this podcast as usual.
Hi,
And
Leslie.
famous question of mine: how was your weekend?
This weekend, oh yeah, it was both work and play. Literally, Saturday I was playing a badminton tournament. I took part in two categories. Like an idiot, I played 7 matches a single day. And Sunday I was holding was the first day of a 3-day workshop for a client. So, I shouldn't have played 7 matches on Saturday, but it was
Good,
good
good. You're minting money. Good, good, good. And
while
now, of course,
playing.
we have another person also who's in that field. So he has a VC with us. So, viewers and listeners, we have Anant Vidur Puri with us, who's a partner at Bessemer Venture Partners. The moment we hear the word venture, we all know what it is all about. Big money, big talk, but of course, very serious players who are, helping the entire startup ecosystem. Of course, Anant focuses on, as he says, the opportunities in internet marketplaces and India software as a service, the SaaS kind of ecosystem. Prior to joining Bessemer, Anant was with BCG, where he worked with clients in the financial and IT services across India and North America. And of course, he has a degree in electrical engineering from IIT Delhi, one of the prestigious institutions in India. But interestingly, don't get caught up with the electrical engineering part because he focused on computer and machine vision. So there's a lot to contribute out here. And of course, he's also an MBA from Harvard School. So that says a lot. Though, of course, I always wonder why IITs do MBA and then end up in banks. You have at least entered into VC field. So it's pretty interesting. It reminds me of the Three Idiots kind of stuff. But it's always
Thanks for having me, Leslie and Jayanth. And I'm trying to keep track of uh, what all I have to clarify in that introduction because I was taking notes, clarify this, clarify that, then I lost track.
well, I picked up everything from your website. So if it
Exactly, not
helps you need to
ChatGPT.
correct things on your website.
Not ChatGPT.
Absolutely. No, there's nothing wrong. It's just I think some of the commentary around it, I just I thought I would clarify. But no, no, thanks. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here and excited and looking forward to this conversation. I do focus on internet marketplaces and software as a service, SaaS. I'm and particularly excited about what I call as Ind AI SaaS. And yeah, excited to talk to both of you and your viewers about it.
Yeah, and we'll get back to that, SaaS in India and India AI SaaS part of it. But before we get into that, viewers and listeners, you folks know the format by now. So we'll be speaking about a few developments. Anand, feel free to join, talk
Yeah.
about it, comment on it. Wherever. So one, of course, is that OpenAI is showing its next generation of AI-powered humanoid robots, which are capable of completely autonomous work in complex environments, like even like a BMW factory. Imagine, assembling an entire car by itself. So that's the kind of level that it's reached. Reminds me of the Bicentennial Man, the Robin Williams movie. So one of those interesting developments, and of course the other interesting development is this OpenAI's her like advanced voice mode for ChatGPT, and just for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, it is basically this new LSLM. Lots of technical jargon in when we talk about AI, but LSLM simply means listening while speaking language model. So you have the LLM, which is the large language model. You have the MLSM, which is the multimodal large language model. You have the SLM, which is the small language model, and of course many other things along with that. For now, LSLM, it's enabling AI to process incoming speech even while talking. So just
Almost real-time human-like conversations. I mean, the prerequisite to this was real-time translators. That was machine-led that came in a few years back, and this evolves into the LSLM.
And of course,
Yeah.
also before we come to what Anant has, Bessemer Ventures has come up with this report, which I think it's an annual report, right, Anant?
Yes, it's an annual report. Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so it's the the India SaaS report.
Right.
Very interesting report. But before we come to that, just a couple of other reports that caught my attention this time is one is from Accenture, which says that 31% of working hours in India will be automated or augmented by GenAI. They're playing it pretty safe out there, so it's either going to be automated or it's either going to be augmented. You take your pick. But interesting that they're saying if responsibly executed, there's always ifs and buts. But to the benefit,
31 man-hours per week or per month?
this is, I think, it's annual. I think so.
Annual?
31% of working hours.
Oh,
Or
31.
I think it's per week. Or let me just check. But it says that you can create an extra dollars 4.5 trillion in economic value in the Asia Pac region. Now I can see Anant already laughing, but it's interesting to have these numbers. Yeah, it's going
No,
to.
Anant is an ex-BCG guy. He's thinking, how did these guys extrapolate? I know how exactly they
No,
did
no.
that. Been
No,
there.
but no, I'm not going to go there. But just to, I think the one really interesting thing about that is, I think the fact that like people are acknowledging the fact that it will be augmentation is a
Yeah,
part of it. I think that is
exactly.
the most interesting thing for me, that they are going out there and saying that it's automation or augmentation.
True.
Yes, they're playing it safe, but I think
Yeah.
that's something which I personally feel that I think it's a combination mode. It's a co-pilot. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
human
No,
machine together.
the
But
movie.
Anant, Jayanth and I have already discussed this, so we'd love your views on this because it's nice. This augmentation has got a back to the. I'm just giving the backdrop to it is that that a lot of experts are divided over the Gen AI, especially the ROI part of it, and you folks are hardcore into ROI. I mean, into exits and into entries and exits and the ROI part of it. So. I mean, typically when you talk about Gen AI, you talk about where's the ROI. Like people like Gary Marcus and all. I mean, Gary Marcus, all said and done, is an AI cognitive scientist. Can't be taken too lightly, also. But at the same time, you find there's a lot of emotional, a lot of emotions are running high when we are talking about Gen AI, and I mean, they're talking about a Gen AI winter once again, which I personally find a little, I mean, as they say, the news of my death is being exaggerated. So it's a little too early. But having said that, I would love your kind of thoughts because, Salesforce has come out with a similar kind of report. Well, of course, they are talking about sales teams,
Hmm.
which their core strength on the CRM part of it. So they're
Right.
saying about most businesses see greater revenue by selling to existing customers than to new ones. I think this is old hat. Everybody knows about it. But I think more important than that is what they're talking about, how AI is being used. For, it is not only, it's for recurring revenue and the kind of stuff that AI is being used it, whether to push for productivity, for personalization. Of course, there are concerns regarding integration, security, customer distrust that yet have to be fully addressed. But in India, particularly, Salesforce says that 89% of sales teams have fully implemented or are experimenting with AI. Interesting conversations.
Yeah.
Your your own report, now coming back to what you have said, I
Hmm.
liked your report. I have covered it in my Mint Tech Talk, which will appear on Friday.
Thank you so much.
I've done. So I've covered that more in depth with, I love the kind of stuff that you have covered. But just for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, here's just a small little brief. So it basically says that the rise of SaaS in India 2024. That's the title of the report. And it was released on August 5th. It affirms the trend basically that AI has become a catalyst for SaaS companies in the country,
Yeah.
if I were to paraphrase. And it also underscores that Indian SaaS companies are gradually becoming what Bessemer likes to call India AI SaaS companies, which
Yes.
indicates basically that AI enabled services are giving the much needed edge to compete in the market. And of course, since I have a VC out here, helping them attract more funding from VCs. So we have, I think, examples like in India, whether it's Freshworks, whether it's Zoho, and globally, of course, you have the Salesforce, it's Microsoft, Adobe,
Right.
SAP, etc. Plenty of examples. Anant, your report, your thoughts on how this transition of SaaS to India, because Jayanth and I have been saying that, SaaS companies will actually sort of have a very tough time if they don't move to AI because they'll just turn out to be system integrators.
Yeah. So no, so first of all, I think we, I actually agree with that thought to a large extent. I'm not saying whether they'll become system integrators or not, but I think AI is the next step. AI is just a new way of building software, right? It's a new thing that you can do with software. What is it at the end of the day? It's a piece of code, still software, which is written in a way that it does more than tradition than the other code does. It can, as opposed to just showing you a dashboard, it can take an action on that dashboard. As opposed to just showing you a text, it can, improve that text or condense that text, so on and so forth. So in that spirit, our belief is that this is just the next step of building software, and hence, if you are not if you're not taking advantage of this, if you're not building with AI, then you're actually getting lost in the software building kind of world, because your competitors are going to be using it, your customers are going to see them using it, and they will ask you for it, and if you are not doing it, then you will be behind. And in fact, we wanted to test this with real data. So we said, okay, is it just us, intellectual, kind of, thinking that, this will happen? So we did a survey. 91% of the companies in that survey, and this was almost 100 companies, and startups with a minimum of $2 million in revenue, all the way up to $100+ million in revenue, actually filled that survey out. 91% of them said they had shipped an AI feature in the last 12 months. 86% of them said that they classify either as AI native or AI enabled. That tells you something, right? Like 12 months ago, that was not the case. So when everyone is doing it, your customer is in the market, they are getting those kinds of products and features. If you don't do it, you will be left behind. Now, whether you'll become a system integrator or not, I don't want to comment on that.
Right.
But I agree with that
No,
sentiment.
I said if you don't use AI, there's the danger of ending up
Being left behind.
Being left
being
behind,
left
yeah.
behind.
Using AI is going to become hygiene. I think that's exactly
It's
what
hygiene,
I know
exactly.
that
it's
system
hygiene.
integrator is a strong word, but what
Yeah,
I'm just saying is that there is the danger. Like I think it
absolutely.
applies to anybody. Like in the media, I might turn out to be a fossil if I don't use, AI tools with a lot of discretion. I mean, with
Discretion,
obviously the
yes.
guardrails around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anant, you mentioned you guys see AI as another way of writing software or augmenting software, which is interesting. Is that your primary view? Because in your report, again, it was mentioned in last year's report as well, that you guys see human being in the loop to be very strongly. So you see human plus AI plus workflow, to working together as being the key for AI-led development or AI-augmented development, right? So in that sense, what we are seeing in the AI space, especially in the enterprise AI space of AI agents in the very nascent stages, or agentic AI programming as they call it. Are you guys big believers of that, and are you guys betting in that wave?
Absolutely, yes. One of the first SaaS AI, India SaaS investments that I did back in 2021 was this company called as Lena AI. And
Mm-hmm.
2021, this is June 21, and this is before ChatGPT was a thing. And
Right.
they were already building on, at that time, I mean, we didn't know it was going to be so mainstream, but we heard GPT, and they were building on that. And today they have fully migrated to a full agentic architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And and this brings me back to something that Leslie, you were asking about, how do you measure ROI as well? Without Lena, so what the product does is they sell to enterprises, and it's an agentic architecture for IT and for HR. So, for example, let's say in the Mint, you need to, or in your employer, you need to upgrade your laptop. So what will you do? You will go to your IT administrator or whoever. You will say, how do I update my laptop? They will tell you a policy. You will try to read the policy. You will say, okay, I'm eligible in 6 months. 6 months later, you will come back. You will tell them, give me a new laptop. They make you wait for two. This whole cycle will happen. With Lena, you can Slack, email, message, whatever your primary mode of communication is, the Lena bot saying, hey, can you tell me when I'm due for a new laptop? And can you place an order for it? This is the laptop I want. This is the configuration I want. It will automatically go check your policy. It will interact with your IT administrator. It will check when you are due. It will place the order. It will find the lowest cost vendor from the list of approved vendors. It will come back and tell you if your specifications can be met or not. All of this will happen without you thinking more about it. And what that means is you are spending less time on this mundane task, which is not your core job. You are not worried by it. You're not stressed about it. You know it will happen when it's supposed to happen. And your IT administrator is also not stressed about you taking 2 extra laptops. So now that's ROI, because I'm reducing the non-essential or the non-value generating work that someone is doing. I'm automating that.
These are pay-per-use SaaS models, basically.
This is a pay-per-use SaaS model. So this is like, and the interesting thing is, it's not in the sense like I don't pay more if I ask Lena 10 more things. That's not the way, because then I will never ask any, then it's like paying for someone to do the work. It's paid as a software. It's paid in the terms of how many sources of data or how many integrations are you using, because that's really what's important. How many systems is this software integrated with? Is it integrated with your ERP, with your HRMS system, with your procurement system, finance system, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And how many geographies is it deployed, and so on and so forth. But that's an example of AI plus
how's
human
accountability built in the bot? In a sense, like who's responsible at the end of the day? Because like these are used, like if it's used in a small little startup, it's okay. I mean, with 10 employees, 20 employees, that's fine. But if it's used in huge organizations where a single mistake can cost like I wouldn't want to refer to any particular mistake as such, but we know the repercussions of what.
Absolutely. So it is in fact almost exclusively, they sell to large enterprises, usually 5,000-10,000 employees or above. And the thing is that the accountability is built into the system. The agent looks at the policy that the company has uploaded. It looks at your tenure. It looks at your employee ID. Whatever your employee ID makes you eligible for, as per the policy, it will just execute that. And there is full trail of audit why that laptop was put, in that example, because of this policy, it is all documented in the backend because compliance needs it. But this is actually higher accuracy than an IT administrator who you could go and tell.
No. What I was driving at was not how it is being executed. That I guess by now, it has to be executed flawlessly, else nobody will buy it. So that's not the point.
Correct.
The point here is for the viewers and listeners is who bears the brunt of it if something goes wrong. Are there penalties levied on it that, say whether it is, now in this particular case, it could be Lena AI, it could be Adam AI, or it could be AI, or it could be anything under the sun. Saying whose solution, who's responsible for that? Say if I take an OpenAI API and I layer it over it and I build a different kind of product, the APIs are not going to be accountable because at the end of the day, I'm training it on my local data. So I'm accountable, I'm doing it in-house. Here I'm taking an external thing, I'm integrating it. So I'm just trying to understand the accountability and clarify. That will be nice.
No, absolutely. I think the accountability is on the software that has been implemented. Obviously, the software has to be implemented correctly. But I make one comment because I get this question a lot, and I answer with an example. So you've been using Word or Outlook for a very long time. I'm sure there has been some time when you sent an email and it got stuck in spam somewhere, right? Do you go and blame Outlook for that email lapse? Or do you say, hey, this is a function, I probably thought it is spam. So I think we have grown used to using software, and all software has certain, corner cases, or it has certain things which may not go exactly as per planned. But there is an existing accountability structure that already exist. AI software is no different.
Yeah, but I like the analogy, but at the same time, you have to understand one thing that just because I see a blue screen, I'm not going to abandon Windows unless I really am a Linux.
Correct.
In my case, I have partitioned my Windows. I have the safer side, but not everybody. But in the case of smaller kind of programs, like say
Yeah.
if there's a mistake in Slack, I can just discard Slack, and people have done that. We
Yeah.
have plenty of issues where the
I
entire.
think I hear your question, Leslie, but to a significant extent, I think this comes under the software policy, how the
Yeah, yeah,
current
that's what
software
I'm saying.
vendors,
I know this is
yeah,
not the area that we should,
Yeah. No, no,
but
no.
I think,
The reason I brought it up was because I feel that, so there are two things that AI can do. AI can either infer, or AI can execute. My own view, my personal view is the AI execution is very easily uh, trackable and checkable. Like if AI is to execute something, hey, this was what was supposed to be done. Did you do it or not? You can easily tell or not tell. And there is actually very straightforward to have accountability that, hey, as per policy, ABC should have happened. You didn't do it, but you did D. So that's your problem. That's clear who is to blame, who is not to blame, etc. Can be easily done. When AI is inferring, it's
correct.
much harder. So I actually feel the challenge that you are referring to, Leslie, I see more when you are inferring,
Yeah.
less when you're executing. And that,
yeah.
oh, I asked OpenAI a question and it answered something wrong. There is a bigger challenge there because that's not execution. That's
And I guess it's important to clarify for our viewers and listeners also that while we are talking about this, in a sort of a vacuum, in reality, enterprises have very strong SLAs or the service
SLAs, yeah, yeah.
agreement.
So
So yeah, so
I mean, when he
and
was
there's a whole
explaining
battery
how
of
it,
lawyers that sits out there, just to handle these kind of.
yeah, in this
So
particular use case, I think this particular AI agent is built on programmatic AI, that not as much on Gen AI. So that's why,
correct.
Leslie, your question, it's sort of a little bit less risky in this particular
Yeah,
scenario
yeah.
because
No,
it's not inheriting the hallucinations that exist
But
currently in the LLMs.
let me take another example. Sorry, I'm going to put myself on the spot
Sure.
again. But
Okay.
we invest.
You're doing our
we
job for us.
Yes, I got that hint in the first part of the podcast. So I'm like, let me just do it myself. So one of the companies that one of the other companies in the AI domain that I've invested in is a company called as Pepper Content.
Mhm.
Pepper is an AI-enabled services player in the content marketing world.
Right,
They augment AI and human. They put AI plus humans together, and that
right,
combination creates content, text, video, graphics, whatever it is for again for enterprises, usually enterprises. There, a very practical question that enterprises ask Pepper is, hey, I am XYZ bank. I have billions of dollars of deposits or thousands of crores of rupees of deposits and liabilities and so on and so forth. If you write a blog on my behalf and it says something wrong, it says something bad, it says something that I'm not supposed to say, or if I'm an insurance company and you write a blog for me, or if I'm a healthcare provider, you write a blog for me that says something that I'm not supposed to say, there it's a real problem, right?
right.
That's a very massive problem because imagine a hospital saying something which is in your words, Leslie, politically not right. So so there, and that's where the AI plus humans comes in.
Yeah,
So there are a lot of players globally which do a pure AI led content creation.
right,
One of the biggest challenges with that is that an enterprise cannot trust it. An enterprise says, hey, I get it, it's faster, but I still need oversight. Like,
right,
what if it hallucinates? The exact question that you asked. And that is where Pepper comes in. Pepper is like, I have a AI, but I also have a human in the loop.
right,
So I am taking responsibility. I am taking the accountability. And so there, the accountability is being solved for by putting a human in the loop. And that's the AI plus human world. But there, this problem is more real.
what I like most about this conversation is very nicely and subtly, or not rather not so subtly, Anant is promoting his portfolio companies.
plugging.
But it's
You're
good.
asking me those questions.
Taking a step back, let me continue on what Anand's been saying and ask him a question. Recently, in one of the interviews, Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, he mentioned, if I have to foresee the future and see what kind of companies would be successful 5 years from now, there would be these platform companies that would crowdsource information, okay, built on machine learning platforms, condense and synthesize that information, uh, provide a much better, highly intelligent solution back to the same expert. So the example that he gave is, I know nothing about dermatology, okay, but if I would, go to a million or 10,000 dermatologists, give them $1, to answer a question, and take, crowdsource all that information on my machine learning algorithm, and build this dermatology recommendation solution or an advisory solution and sell it back to the dermatologist. 5 years from now, those are the kind of companies that are built in the AI ML ecosystem that I see would be, would be successful, right? Do you also see that? Because some of the companies that you have invested or given an example, in a way or not, okay, work in that domain. So what's your, do you believe those kind of companies would be in the future, Ankit?
That's a very interesting thought, and I was trying to think, and the first company that came, the two companies that came to my mind because you used the dermatology example was a company called as PubMed, which is a platform in which all these research articles are kept. And I thought that, yeah, I come from a family of many doctors, and they all pay, they all use it, pay for it, and I'm like, that sounds a little bit like that, and it also sounds a little bit like Google because if you think about it, what did Google do? It just aggregated all the information in the world from the people who wrote that information, and then the same people now googling to find other information. So there may be some truth to that. I think the bigger the my inference from that, however, is that it's important that you have data, and it's important that you serve a specific set of users, because like I think you need to know who you're getting that data for, and you need to get good data. I think those are my takeaways from it, because if you know that, hey, this is high quality data, dermatologists in your case, and you know who you are serving that data to. Again, dermatologists in your case, it could be somebody else, it could be students, it could be people who have acne. I think that is where the holy thing lies. Like, can you get that loop going? People who need the information and you have high quality information. Maybe that's, but I don't have a much deeper view on that because I haven't heard that. But it sounds smart.
Right.
Yeah, I know, but
And
what Eric said, I mean, the first thought that came to my mind, but isn't this an LLM? That is exactly
exactly,
what it
exactly,
is. So I
exactly.
didn't see, but I thought, okay, but why is Eric,
Yeah.
repeating himself? That's what an LLM does anyway.
Correct. It
Also,
does.
on a separate note, if only I get a dime every time I hear a successful VC or a successful entrepreneur who comes from a family of doctors. I swear,
But
the
yeah,
number of successful tech entrepreneurs and VCs that I've met
I
who
think
are,
that precision is the precision
I
basically.
guess,
You are very kind to call me successful, Jen. The thing about our industry is, and I used to say this about the banking industry. It's very easy to lend money. It's very, very hard to collect. It's one thing to invest. I think the real test is when we get returns for our LPs. And
yeah.
it's a very long cycle, a very long feedback loop, at least 7, 8 years before you know what you did was right or wrong. But so I wouldn't go to calling me successful just yet, but had the good fortune of working with some really good entrepreneurs. But the doctor's point is interesting. I'll tell you a factoid. At one time, 4 out of the 5 people in our organization looking at investing in India were all from families of doctors. Now that
Oh,
has,
interesting.
and we got really worried. We were like,
I need to do some pattern recognition on that. I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah. I mean, we have to have AI do some kind of
some
research
trend
on that.
analysis on that. Yeah. There's some trend analysis that needs to be done there. I thought it was empirical data, empirical data in my case, but you're telling me 4 out of 5 people
Yeah,
looking at
I
investment.
thought it was anecdotal. So I said, okay,
Yeah.
fine. Where does it work?
I mean, I can tell you that my partner Vishal comes from a family of doctors as well.
Okay. Okay.
He's the other investing partner here at BVP. And
Interesting.
yeah, one more of our associates also comes from a family of doctors. So it's like, again, anecdotal, but I don't know what
Anecdote.
that means.
Speaking about success, and you said that it's easy to easy part is investing, harder part is collecting the money back. In your particular case, of course, getting the exits at the right
Correct.
point in time, getting the right kind of valuations. We have plenty of examples of companies that have sort of bitten the dust when they touched the IPO part of it in the markets, and especially when the markets are crashing. So it's a bad time. But given AI and Gen AI, as the way we look at it, is that probably the job of a VC has become tougher because there are many Me Too kind of companies. That is part one. Second part is that it's easy to replicate these kind of companies. So the moment any company comes up with a wrapper kind of solution over an API, a big tech company can easily replicate it by putting flooding the market with APIs. OpenAI is a classic example of that. Microsoft's Copilot is a classic example of that. Google is another. These are like the big tech companies are like the big daddies out there. They can just overnight just squash every kind of model. So what is it that excites you about an entrepreneur today? Like, say, for instance, Lena AI at that point in time excited you. Perhaps if you look back in today's times, I wouldn't be too impressed with a chatbot that is LLM based or whatever, because we moved from rule based to intent based to LLM based. But now there are plenty of Me Too kind of things, and it's more about relationships and execution rather than just the newness of the thing. So what is it that excites you, and how do you choose these kind of things from the multitude of things? I know that you have a very good team, etc., that gives you a lot of inputs also. But still, at the end of the day, there could be some gut level thing, whether it's a doctor part of it or whatever it be.
No. So I got two questions in that, and I'll separate those out. The first question I got was that with AI coming into the picture, there's a lot of Me Too models. There's a lot of replicability. Things are easier because you get an update from OpenAI, etc. So how do you differentiate between products? That's, I think, one part of the question. The other part of the question, which is uh, which which to me came across like, what do I look for in an entrepreneur? What
What
excites
excites you?
me? Right. So on the first, I'll answer the first one because that's like, it's easier to answer for me. See, you're absolutely right. And that's just technology. Every couple of years, building new technology becomes easier. That's just the technology cycle. SaaS made it easier. AI is making it easier. So the barriers to entry into the software industry they keep coming down. The barriers to entry of building a better product keep coming down. And I think the goal there is always to, how do you then defend? You find another moat. The moat can't just be one thing. Like you can't just have one moat. You have to have two, three, four different moats. Your execution can be a moat. Your strategic partnerships can be a moat. In the specific case of a Lena AI, the number of integrations they had has been a moat. They have the largest number of, like, four-digit number of integrations in the industry. That's become some sort of a moat. So I try to look for a lot of moats because there's and again, there are many charts which to talk about this. There's always a lot of early adopters, and there's that trough of something that's called, and then things come back up. And it's
I
about
saw
finding
this.
companies which have moats to help them survive that trough. It's because no business ever goes top and to the right. No business ever. Like I have we've invested in many companies which have gone on to become really large household names in India today, but there are always ups and downs. That is just business. Business will have ups and downs. So I look for more. So that's the answer to the first question. I'm looking harder for moats in an AI environment because the barriers to entry have come down. But more related to the founder, I think the founder, first, I think we have a job which I feel very privileged because, see, an entrepreneur is building a dream out. They're building a vision out. Then they give me the privilege of having even if it's for a 1 hour meeting, they give me like a, very ringside view of what they are building. They explain their dream and passion to me. It's a very hard thing to do, I think, and it's very hard to do it with someone who you just met. And then you get to do that, you get to hear that dreams, those passions every single day. So first of all, it's incredibly fortunate to have the role that I
And
have.
also the trust in that you will not,
Yeah, it takes a lot of trust. I mean, people, I think we take it for granted that, I'll just come and tell you exactly what's happening in my business with no commitment that you will ever invest. So, it's a big thing. And so I feel very fortunate in that way. And what I really look for in entrepreneurs, because it becomes harder and harder because the quality of entrepreneurs in India has gone up and to the right for the last 10 years that I've been doing this. For me, the most important thing I look for in an entrepreneur, or not the most, but a couple of really important things is how are like a how are they thinking of building a team around them? And you called this out, Leslie, when you asked me, about my role in my job, and you said you have a great team. I think the great team is really the backbone of a great startup. And one of the biggest things I index for personally is an entrepreneur who can hire great people. I feel you have to constantly hire people better than you to do the job you were doing. That, hey, can I find someone who can do the same thing I was doing better, and let me go and do something new? And that's how the business keeps growing. Because if I keep doing what I was doing and can't find better people to do it, then my business will stagnate. So the ability to hire amazing talent and retain them is one pet thing which
Yeah,
I
but
really kind
also,
of.
also on a lighter note, not letting them know that they're better than you.
I don't know. I mean, I think
It's
actually,
a lighter
yeah,
note.
yeah. But yeah, so that's one thing. I think the other thing is that you eventually the buck stops with you. Like a lot of times when people raise capital, and it's got nothing to do with them, but like there is often this environment which gets created that, oh, there is a board, there is look, eventually the entrepreneur is running the business. We can provide a capital, we can come, for lack of a better word, sometimes give gyan, sometimes, help you connect the dots, help you with strategy session, but eventually you have to execute. The entrepreneur has to execute. And hence that thing that, hey, the buck stops with me, I will go and get this done. That is really, really important. Like if you don't believe that you can get this done, then nobody else will believe that you can get this done. Those are two things I look for. Sorry, the long answer to your question. Hopefully that answered it.
I mean, clear moats, okay?
Yeah.
Team, the ability to build a team and execute and taking the responsibility and the accountability that, the buck stops at you. I think these are three great points. I mean, anyone who's watching this podcast, I think these are three great takeaways for an entrepreneur, up and coming founder as to what, a VC looks at. I think extremely well,
Then,
right?
we'll probably have to call Anand back on this podcast after
Yeah,
some 3, 4 months,
I know.
subject to him wanting to come, as I
Correct.
said,
But in
because
our
we have to have a longer conversation on this.
longer conversation.
But for now, before we end this episode, any final questions for Anand?
Oh, yes, I have many, but I'll
Just
probably
one.
stick to.
I'll allow
Okay, give
you
me
to.
two. Give me two. Give me
Okay,
two.
chalo, you
Okay.
take two.
One, Anant, I'm an advisor for AI investments for 4 different VCs. Okay, 3 Indian, 1 Japanese, and I am seeing on the ground, some of the challenges that VCs are facing when it comes to AI investing. Honestly, there are not enough true blue AI first companies in India to invest in, especially if they're India headquartered, because some of the good AI companies in India, AI product companies, are building global products and they're registering either in Singapore or in Delaware. Okay, so how my question, first question, and I'll let you answer this, is what is your view of on the ground, from a VC point of view of investment potential of true blue AI startups and companies, and since you guys are early stage as well.
Sure. So I'll interpret True Blue as AI native, generative
AI
AI
native,
native to be
yes.
specific.
Yeah. AI first.
So I would put those companies in even within that, there are companies building at the foundational model layer.
Right.
Then there are companies building AI, generative AI native applications. And
Right.
then there are companies building applications which are enabled by AI.
Right.
And I think that is a pyramid in the breadth of opportunities that I have seen in those. So I have seen the least at the top, which is the
Correct.
foundation model, and I've seen the
Yeah,
most at the AI-enabled applications and some in between. So
exactly.
to that extent, I think there are relatively more applications than foundational model companies, but that doesn't surprise me, and I'll tell you why, Jayanth. I think of foundational model building or doing innovation in the foundational model space very akin to CapEx in the tech world. It is the closest thing to CapEx. Because if you have to do that, a lot of infrastructure spent on GPUs, you need a lot of electricity spent on GPUs, and you need a lot of time to do that. It's the equivalent of saying I will put up a plant and I will do the capex for the plant. I will get it up and running, and then 3 years later the plant will pay back. I am not fully. I don't know how many of those models can exist in a venture fundable world. That how many of them can create venture outcomes. So I'm not too worried about the lack of those. I personally think that India is very well positioned in the second and the third layers because we not only have the AI talent, like I came across this stat on GitHub, India has 25% of open source project contribution on AI. We have a very large number of developers. So that combination tells us we can build a lot of AI applications. Now, we also don't have NVIDIA. NVIDIA is somewhere else, right? So now I think if I was to play to my strengths, there's a theory in economics around the comparative advantage theory. Like I don't necessarily want to play to that strength. I want to play to my strength. I want to play to an AI-enabled services strength or a AI application strength. So hence that doesn't, while I acknowledge what you said, it doesn't worry me too much.
Okay, cool. Good to hear that.
The only issue with thinking about David Ricardo's comparative theory, etc., is in today's times you have the geopolitics playing around.
That's an
It's a
angle
tricky
which
area. So
that's an angle which earlier
earlier
it wasn't
worked, but
factored
now
in.
Correct.
It wasn't factored in. Now it's getting factored in at
correct.
every level of decision making.
And
Okay,
that's
my
why you
last
have the whole semiconductor stuff,
Correct. Correct.
Atmanirbhar, Make in India, but
correct.
that's a topic for a different episode. Jen.
Okay. My second and last question. And on August 7th, the day we are recording this episode, I have to ask you this, right? In your last year's episode, you guys mentioned that the company valuations have an inversely proportional relation to the interest rates, right? And 2 days back, we've seen, what happened on Monday with the, Japanese bank increasing its interest rate after 20 or 30 years. And then the stock markets globally crashing. We might, it's been said for many months and years now that US and global recession is coming. We might be entering into a recession. But then I'm not too worried. I'm an analyst. I connect dots.
Yeah, you have your Mercedes. You don't have to bother about it.
No. Here's the thing: 2000 dot-com bubble, and then the internet industry, flourished. 2008 GSC, 2009-10 mobile industry flourished, and now AI just came in and a bubble. And I'm guessing on the other side of this, AI will flourish like crazy. And luckily, I've been on all three of those upsides. But my question is, in the short term, Anant. Is this if at all we have a global recession and the stock markets come down, is there going to be any adverse impact on startup and private investments?
Sure. So with the very, very large caveat that I am not a macroeconomics expert, I think whenever interest rates go up, which have been going up for the last 2-3 years,
Right.
they always take time to come down.
Right.
And when interest rates go up, automatically your yield expectations or your return expectations from investments becomes higher and higher.
Right.
And hence your appetite towards, and you have lesser risky instruments giving you more returns. So automatically money gets taken out of private equity and
Private investments.
venture capital markets.
VC, yeah.
Now, the only difference, or not difference, I mean, I haven't seen as many cycles, but the one fact which is unique today is that there's also a lot of dry powder that people raised and committed
Right.
before
Right.
a lot of this happened.
Right.
And I think that may be one of the things that helps smoothen the kind of drawback of capital.
1 or 2 years that it takes for
Yes.
the
So I think so if that happens, if what you are saying happens, I think there is dry powder. So I am less,
okay.
So which gives me some comfort. The other thing which
Good
I
to hear that.
the best companies we've seen in BVP, some of the best companies emerge out of really tough times.
Yeah.
Like Twilio, one of our investments, Uber, which we didn't invest in, but was created, like they both got created around the 2008-9 timeframe when
GSC.
nobody thought you should give money to a startup.
Yeah.
Because, it's that age-old theory that constraints create innovation.
Right.
Necessity is the mother of invention. So I think when you have lesser capital to deploy as an industry, capital finds its way to the bar for capital, investment goes up and the
Right.
quality of investments becomes better. And on that positive note, I wouldn't be too worried.
Nice. No, dry powder, existence of dry powder and quality of investments going.
Yes.
I
I love the way Jayanth summarizes everything. He's got this habit of summarizing.
I agree.
Uh,
Very like it almost makes what I said sound like 2x better than what I actually said. So I like it.
Chat GPT before Chat GPT. Now it's
I
taking away
wanted
my
to say
job.
that, and I said you'll protest about that because
No,
this
I
is
won't.
like,
I
you
won't.
feed it into ChatGPT and it gives you a summary bullet points. I have to keep on telling ChatGPT no bullet points. No, I dislike bullet points. But viewers and listeners, we had a lovely conversation with Anant around. I mean, of course, Jayanth as usual, and Anant giving us deep insights on how VC firms look at this entire entrepreneurial ecosystem and the positive way, because see, it's important also to remain a techno optimist at a point in time. We could be wrong. I'm not saying, because all of us are techno optimists here, Jayanth. We both have, I mean, given the fact that we wrote that book on AI Rising, just goes to show that, we are techno optimists and we will remain so. That's the beauty of a democracy at the end of the day. But I think the take homes, as Jayanth neatly summarized it, I won't repeat them, are very comforting words. And I hope, Anant, you will be able to join us, 5, 6 months later, so that you can give us, revisit this conversation and figure out what more has happened in the field.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the only last word I will say is continue to be very excited about India SaaS. I think that's the theme of the day for me.
So lovely having you on this podcast. Jayanth, thank you. Anant, thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Thanks, Jan.
Thanks, Anand.